40,000 students spanning across 172 countries.
And then it got to a point where I was seeing the people I looked up to. I'm not really looking up to you guys anymore. I'm not wanting to be you anymore.
Right, guys, welcome back to another edition. Today I'm looking forward to this chat. I know I say that every time. I'm always excited to have these conversations, and they just seem to get cooler and cooler. So if I could, I'll just give a quick little introduction, Phil, and then welcome you on. So I guess some talking points that we're going to get into here. You're a professional DJ, CEO of Digital DJ Tips, and author of the book Rock the Dance Floor. Super exciting title, so I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that and letting you share some of the tidbits and information from the book with our viewers. Yeah, welcome, Phil.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it is really cool. Actually, I hope I'm not lying. I don't think so. You are the first DJ that we've had on this show. And
I did do my research. You've had a really diverse set of people from almost random, I have to say, but nice mix of people from the music industry.
Random, doesn't it? Yeah. But I guess that is the music industry. It's a collection of all these different people and different things, parts that bring it together as a whole. So, I mean, part of what we're trying to do here is show a big picture of not only what you could do in the music industry, but just to help people understand some of the inner workings of what we get to do every day. So yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for being the first DJ. And
hey,
there's been a few authors, but a DJ author is an interesting combination that most people probably don't really think of. So let's get into the book, but let's just kind of start off with you, if that's okay. And, well, first of all, how long have you been DJing? Because I know that was probably how you got into the rest of these things, right?
Wow, yeah. I started DJing at probably 13 or 14.
Oh, wow.
And I've been doing it ever since. I don't know why, really. I don't know why. I think, my dad had a dual tape deck.
Okay.
And I think I used to tape the top 50 on a Sunday night, cut out the DJ between the songs. Then I realized if you cut out the DJ on the right beat, it sounded better when you put the next song on. And so I was making, beat mixtapes at 14, and then I thought, this feels like fun. And then one thing led to another, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. And it's really evolved into, I guess, the music and beyond the music, which is really cool. So one of the other things, so you DJ'd for a while and then you jumped, what's the progression here? Because you've done some cool things that I mentioned, yeah.
So I was DJing, as I say, from very early. I started a mobile disco when I was at school. This was back in the days of 7-inch singles and,
cool. Okay.
turntables with carpet glued on the box and all that stuff. And then I got into the club scene because where I'm from, Manchester in England, in the early 90s was just the place for the club scene. It was incredible. Anyone with a pulse would have got into it. I got into it. I was already a DJ, so I was bringing this knowledge with me as a clubber. So it didn't take me long to put those two together and say, I want a piece of this. Became a promoter, promoted events, played in Ibiza, and spent probably 10 years as a professional DJ, booking all my heroes, having the kind of, it felt like there should be a camera following me around, as a young man in his 20s. Maybe they were not as big in those days.
Yeah, right.
And then it got to a point where I was seeing the people I looked up to and thinking, I'm not really looking up to you guys anymore. I'm not wanting to be you anymore. And they were living a life that didn't appeal to me. So I kind of took a step back.
Really?
And kind of figured out over maybe a year or two that I really wanted to teach this. I'd done it. I'd got as far as I wanted to go, and I understood everything above me. I kind of had the picture, and I didn't want to spend my life, on my own, on planes, jetting around the world, doing the same thing week and week, month after month, year after year. I didn't want that. So it kind of made sense to start teaching it. So the short story is, back in 2010, I began to teach online, and here we are, 2024.
That's early in the game for. I mean, I guess the internet was pretty booming then, but just looking
I
back now, I
mean,
mean, 14 years ago, it seems pretty early in the game.
well, YouTube was 3 years old when we started, and
Ah,
Facebook was still the social network. And yeah, so it was quite early.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
more importantly, digital DJing was very, very young.
Oh, okay,
So the
we'll have to
idea of
break
having a
that down.
laptop, the idea of
Oh,
having a
got you. Yep.
laptop, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
was was utterly new. The
That's
iPod was.
crazy to think.
I don't even think the iPhone had been launched. If it had, it was only just.
It's
So
just
the idea
yeah.
of downloading music and
Uh,
playing it from a laptop was all new. So I had my foot in the old way. Like I said, 7-inch singles and then CDs and so on.
yeah.
But I also then had my head in the new way.
Mm.
And there was no one else with that set of skills. There was no one else who could teach how it should be done, but with the new
Oh,
equipment
that's
and the new
interesting. That's
ways.
really interesting.
So we came
Wow.
up with a method of teaching that encompassed all of those things. It's a 5-step method of teaching DJ that holds
Ah,
true whatever you want to learn on, whether you want to
old
do
or
it the
new.
old way, the new way on your phone. It holds true. And so this 5-step teaching method is what
Yeah.
underlines our book, which is now in
Got
its
you.
second edition, and
Very
which
cool.
underlines all of the teaching we've done. And since we started teaching, we've made courses with people like Jazzy Jeff,
Very
James
cool.
Hype,
Wow.
who's a very big
Yeah.
DJ in 2024, James. But of course, Jeff is a big DJ for
A legend,
several
right?
generations now. And
That's
we
true.
always use the same formula. We always sit down with these guys and say, right, we're going to go through how you do it in this way. And what comes
Ah.
out of the end is something quite special. So
I have a
yeah, the
question on
school
that
is.
actually, if you don't
Go
mind,
on.
jump in here quickly. Because I meant you mentioned some DJs who are doing it, and they, I imagine they've been like, especially like Jazzy Jeff and some of the guys who you said span some decades now, really in the game. There's your approach. You said this 5-step method, and I imagine by the time that you pulled some of them in and collaborated with them, they already had their own methods. I'm wondering, is this something that overlaps directly what they were doing, or is this something that they had to kind of rethink based
Oh,
on your method?
it's funny you should say that because there's kind of two ways of answering that question. So
Okay,
the first way is they definitely had to rethink,
okay.
but it wasn't because of our methods. It was because we were asking them to explain their methods. Because
Oh,
the
right.
best DJs tend to do it instinctively.
You're not
They
thinking.
just do it, right? So if you then
Right.
say, "What are you doing?" It's a bit like asking I guess, a sports person to
Yeah,
explain the order in which they throw a javelin, or they probably
right.
couldn't tell you. And if they tried to tell you while they were doing it, they'd probably do it wrong. So
True. Yes.
what they've said to us is, and what everyone says to us is, "I've never explained it in this way before. I've never had
Ah,
to think about." And so that's one answer.
okay, makes sense.
But the other answer is that our 5 steps, they step back from all that,
Okay,
and they say, because I was seeing DJs who weren't succeeding, who were very
got
good,
you. Right. Okay.
and I was got to thinking, why does this person succeed and this person doesn't?
That's a good question.
And I
Yeah.
figured out that there are 5 big areas that you
Ah,
need to get right in order to get any kind of success. And
interesting.
I figured out that the DJs who were getting success, they didn't even have to be that good in any particular one of those areas. They
Oh,
just had to
okay.
have all 5 of them. And so we figured
Interesting.
out that the best way to teach and the best way to get people improving quickly was to
Yeah.
explain all 5 areas, which I'll
Okay.
tell you, and then
Okay.
explain that they had to work on all 5. So very,
Got
very
you.
quickly, they are the DJ gear, which is number one. So the
Gear.
total
Okay.
geeky stuff, the,
Okay.
the back of the equipment, what plugs in where,
Got you.
gain
Okay.
staging, getting the audio sounding right, all the stuff that's not creative, but you got to know it.
Right.
Then
Okay.
there's music, everything to do with the music, everything.
Okay.
Then there's the mixing, the techniques. So it's what you
Yeah.
do on the gear with the music, right? So this is now the
Okay.
creative stuff.
Yeah.
But then there's performing,
Yeah.
because it's different doing it in your bedroom to doing it in public. You can learn your
Right.
lines for a play, but when
Yes.
you get on that
Yes.
stage, it's a different thing.
Yes.
So Performing has its own set of skills.
Yeah.
And then the final one is, we call it success, because DJing is a very, very wide church. And there's a lot of ways of defining success. You could be a live streamer going live on Twitch every week. You could be a mobile DJ playing weddings. You could be a touring DJ getting on a private jet and going and playing guest slots. And a resident DJ in a nightclub. You could be just playing. There's a lot of extremely successful private event DJs who you won't hear about because they're making a lot of money playing to rich people and everything else, radio and so on. So our fifth step is, where do you take it from here? But you need to do all the 4 steps, and you need to do them in the right order. So this is kind of like,
wow, okay.
So when we go in the studio with these guys and say, hey, we say, okay, tell us about your gear. Tell us about how you collect your music. Now show us your skills. Now tell me what your 5 tips are for performing. And, so we can break our steps down for each individual. So that's how it works.
Wow. So many questions based off that. It's amazing that you were able to take what you were doing as a DJ, sort of pivot to something that you saw more value, or maybe not more value, but you saw value in an area that was untouched, right? And just so I want to explain this too, because just for anyone who's not familiar with your work and the magnitude of what you've been able to do, if I'm not mistaken here, I've read that you've taught 40,000 students spanning across 172 countries.
You've got the update. I mean, I literally heard those stats today. They talk, because it used to be 38 in 168 countries, and my colleague told me quite excitedly today we've got 4 more countries and we've gone over 40,000.
Welcome aboard, 4 new countries. That's amazing, man. So for anyone who's like, okay, I get it, it's 5 skills, this is the stuff that's been proven and obviously widely shared. So highly respected man in the DJ community and beyond. So I just want to throw that into some context for anyone listening who's contemplating, the legitimacy of this information. This is real stuff coming from a real seasoned vet, if I do say so myself. Yeah. So continue on, man. Because I have a lot of questions just based on those 5 things. I think they were probably, some of them were sort of intertwined in my notes anyways, and just some of the ideas I had. I want to start off with gear, because you mentioned the changes, and it's hilarious to me that you called the mobile setup from your early days this massive thing. It doesn't sound like it's at all something that you'd want to move around, but that's what DJs were doing, right? With the crates of records and these massive pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And then you said it's evolved to like a laptop and even smaller than that now. But for someone starting off, what is like the fundamental gear, or at least the things to consider?
So it nowadays doesn't require an awful lot of money. It just requires the laptop you already own, which is a nice thing because we've all got a laptop, right? So you need a basic DJ controller, and a DJ controller is nothing more than a more DJ friendly keyboard, if you like. It doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything. It plugs into the computer. The computer does everything. It just controls it in a way that looks more like a DJ. You get spinny things and knobs, and you can control it all with the keyboard. You can do everything with the keyboard. It just doesn't feel like DJ.
And
so you need
like
a box,
right?
They all look like DJ. So you need a box to control the software.
Right.
And the box also has an audio interface in it to give you the headphones, because there's 4 things you need to DJ.
Okay.
You need 2 music sources. You need a way of mixing between them. You need some speakers, and you need some headphones that can hear the other thing that the audience isn't hearing. That's it, right? That's it. So you can do that with your phone if you want to. There's plenty of apps you can do on your phone. But the best way to start is to spend $300 on a little box that plugs in, comes with software, and allows you to learn 100 times more than you could on those old turntables that you used to need to, drive around everywhere because they were so big and heavy. I mean, you can literally do more on your phone than you can on they say that your phone could land an Apollo mission on the moon, don't they?
Right.
It's the same in DJing.
Yeah.
So people worry they're not using the right gear, or they worry they haven't spent enough money. But really, the skills can be learned. Everything you need to know can be learned
easy
on that piece of equipment.
That's incredible. And I mean, we won't go through all of these points because I definitely want anyone who's interested in hearing more to check out your courses online. And of
Oh,
course,
believe me, I
book.
couldn't tell you in a day
Right.
enough to make it not worth checking out one of the courses,
It's
because
still, you have
they
a
are
lot.
thorough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah. Music is another big point here. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different styles of DJing and genres of music. Do you have any specific advice or maybe information, conversations that you have with people just concerning where to begin as far as music tastes? Is it based on event? Is it based on your personal preference?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the best advice is to try everything, because
Okay.
if you take a university course, let's say I
Right.
took a university course in music,
Yes.
I went to the music college or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not going to specialize in the first year. They're going to give you a bit of everything, because
True.
they know that what you think you want to do might not be what you end up doing,
That's true.
and
That's
they
a very
want to
good point.
expose you to everything. So you should take every single opportunity that comes your way. If
Okay.
you're asked to DJ a genre that you don't know, you just style it out and say, "Yeah, I'll do that," and then you go and find out, and you try it. Obviously, if 0% of you wants to do it, then don't do it. But if 10%
Sure.
of you thinks, because
Huh.
you'll probably discover things that change your opinion about the kind of DJ you want to be. You will learn about music you don't know about, which is never a bad thing.
That's
But
true.
also, if your aunt or your sister's friend or your mum says, "Hey, now you're a DJ, can you come and do this?" They don't know the kind of DJ you think you are up here. You've probably never told anyone anyway.
That's true,
They just know
yeah.
you're a DJ.
Right.
And so you better be ready to say, "Yeah, okay, I'll have a go." And so I think it's very, very important not to pigeonhole yourself too early. I've worked with a
That's
lot
good
of very
advice.
big DJs who've
Yeah.
got a name for themselves,
Right.
and it becomes something they don't enjoy, because whenever they're booked, they have to do the thing that they're
That they're
known for.
right? Yeah.
But as soon as the doors are closed, or it's the after hours or whatever, and they can just breathe,
Yep.
all the music they really want to play comes out. So you've
that's
got that
interesting.
chance at the beginning, at the very beginning of your career or your hobby. You've got that
Yeah.
chance, because no one knows you for anything. And you can also make a lot of mistakes, because no one knows who you are anyway. So
That's
if you play 10 gigs and 5 of them are rubbish, who cares? So definitely don't close any doors. Try everything from the beginning.
You're right. And it's funny. You said, as you wrapped that up, leading into exactly what I was just thinking as you were talking, because you said you don't know what necessarily you like because maybe you're not exposed to as much. But another thing is you might really not know. And maybe a lot of people, I have a feeling a lot of people listening have an idea, as you mentioned, of what a DJ is based on their past experience. Maybe it was a wedding, maybe it's just radio. So, I mean, what would your definition, in your words, what is a DJ?
So a DJ is someone who knows the right music to play for the people in front of them right now. That's it.
Interesting.
We all know a
Wow.
DJ plays other people's music, right? We all know that.
Right.
So unless they're
Yeah.
they're Calvin Harris or someone, and they've made enough records of their own to play mostly their own stuff.
Gotcha.
But most
Right.
DJs
Yeah,
are playing
yeah.
other people's music.
Yes.
But it's that knowledge, it's that ability to play, to know better than most what to play next and next and next
And next,
for the
yeah.
people in front of you right now.
Reading
To
the
me, that
room.
is it's an art and a craft.
Yes.
The craft bit is all the bits we talked about in the kind of 5 steps. But
Yeah.
the art bit, you can learn those. You can learn those 5
They're
steps.
teachable. Okay.
But the art bit, it's never over, because the audiences change, the music changes,
That's true.
you change, and that's the
Yeah.
fascination. That's the bit that keeps you coming back. It's
Right.
almost a holy grail, There's always we've all been at parties where someone's got the stereo, right? Someone's got the music, someone's got YouTube on their phone, and they never
Yes.
know what to play after. There's always gaps, because they don't know what to do next. The
Yes.
DJ always knows what to do next.
The DJ knows. Yeah. So, and I know just from my experience, some of that is just reading the room and understanding. But you really have to be thinking ahead. And I guess you really have to be in tune with the energy. I don't know if it's really the energy or the movements, but I'm sure you know better. You can put into better words than me of what's happening in that scenario, in that instance that would lead to what follows that. and when you turn the energy up and when you turn it down. Like, you're right, that does sound like really poetic, but really like an art form in itself.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It is. There's an
hmm,
awful lot of ways you can approach that, and it depends where you're playing. You know, if you're playing in a
yeah,
bar, it's going to be very different to a club where everyone turns up at once, everyone leaves at once. It has a
that's
beginning, a
true.
middle, and an end. In a bar, it's
Yeah,
more cyclical. So, and all events are different, and so there's always a
yeah.
kind of template that works in any given scenario.
Okay,
But
right,
that template is yours to play with, depending on who's there, and a million and one things.
right.
But
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. And you mentioned Calvin Harris, and I know there's also some blurred lines between DJing and producing sometimes. What sort of distinguishes, and when is it? I mean, what type of DJ really goes beyond playing, I guess, other people's songs and just playing music that people want to hear, and sort
so
of
yeah,
ventures into producing?
there's a blurred line because
Yeah,
especially with the equipment nowadays, you
right.
can you can pretty much live remix anything. You have very good
True.
quality live stems in DJ gear. So you want an acapella, you press a button
Acapellas,
and there it is.
yeah, yeah.
You want to change the key to match the music on another track. It's you don't even have to know which key. There's a sync button that'll match the keys.
Oh, hold on.
So
I need
you
to
could.
ask you about that sync button. Sorry to cut you off
Oh,
there. You know
this is
why? This is
go
funny
on.
because as a musician, for any musicians, especially keyboard players, organ players listening, you might laugh at this one because the transpose button is something that's really frowned upon in a lot of
Well,
music communities, right? Is
there
this
is the same
similar?
thing. There's the same thing in DJing. The beat sync button is frowned upon because
Ah,
it saves you having to manually line up the tempos and the phrases because it'll do it all for you. To
okay.
me, to me, why should you have to understand the circle of fifths and all that stuff to know if something sounds good over something else, right? You can
Yeah,
put
right.
as long as you know what the algorithm is doing. Some of
Yes.
the transpose algorithms, they call it key sync in DJing,
Yeah.
are laughably bad because,
Okay.
and again, let's not get too technical here because a lot of people will go right over their heads. But
Sure.
basically,
Okay.
it tries to line up the relative keys, and that's it. So it could move the track 7 or 8 notes
Oh,
up or down, which is utterly useless. Whereas there are other matches close enough that are going to move the track by a note or two, and that's normally within the realms of, hey, I can get away with this.
like a good
So as long
pairing.
as you
Yes.
understand what happens when you tap that button and that it's not going to make things sound too bad, and then as long as
Okay.
you can trust your own ears, because one thing we notice
Right.
is that DJs, they love music, they've got very good musical taste,
Right.
they've got good judgment
Yes.
until they start using the gear, and then then either they freeze and they double guess themselves and think, hang on,
Right.
I'm
Yep.
an imposter
Okay.
here, I shouldn't be doing this, or
Huh.
all their taste goes out the window, and it sounds horrible because they're trusting the algorithm instead of their own ears. It's almost like,
Oh,
well, if
that's
the computer
interesting.
says it's right, it must be right, which is a big
Right.
mistake. So we do not frown upon these tools. These tools are brilliant, they're
When
amazing,
used correctly, right?
but you have to understand what they're doing. If
When
you don't know
understood.
what they're
Yeah.
doing, you
Okay.
shouldn't be pressing that button. I mean, that's you know, it's more than DJing, isn't it? In life,
Just a
generally,
lot
if you
more.
don't know what a
Yeah.
button does, probably best off not pressing it.
It's
So,
true.
so yeah.
It's true. And it could really become a crutch too if you don't know, if you don't understand, I guess, the inner workings or at least the concept, the fundamentals of what should happen in theory based on pressing this button. Then you
Yeah,
just keep pressing the button. You miss a whole lot of information that would be useful when the button's not available. So,
I mean, exactly. That's another
yeah.
thing. But back to your question about the blurred line between producers and DJs,
Yes, yes, yes.
they people tend to become producers by accident because
Mm,
they drift into it by making their own edits or their own bootlegs or their own
got
mashups.
you. Okay.
And once you've figured out that you can get into a door and start doing that stuff, then it's not the biggest leap to starting with a blank sheet instead of with
Transfer
a
over
track.
there. Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
but also it's not actually that hard. Keep it quiet. But to be a DJ nowadays, it just isn't. In the
Okay.
past,
Yeah.
in the past, you were limited by money because it was very expensive, and by the very basic
True.
skill of lining up the tempos of two records, which was hard.
Mm.
It was hard with turntables. So
Oh, yeah, I
now
can
the cost of
imagine.
entry has gone through the floor. and a single button will do all the hard stuff. So now you can be quite good quite quickly. And so now there's an awful lot of people who are doing this thing called DJing. So to become more than that, is the thing that stands you out nowadays. That to become more than that, you have to produce. As soon as you produce, the music travels faster than you do, and people know who you are before you get there. And if people know who you are before you get there, you start getting bookings outside of your town. Then your career can take off. So there's very, very few DJs who don't make music. The funny thing is, once you make music, you don't have to carry on doing it. You can still have a career as a DJ and not bother making any more music because you're at that point you're accepted and you're known and et cetera, et cetera. But you have to prove it first, if you like.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned something else in one of your examples there of the DJ freezing up in a certain scenario, right? And I know I want to jump back to your book because that's a big deal, and we definitely want to gear people in that direction. Definitely go out and get a copy of that book. And I'm just going to say the title again, Rock the Dance Floor. Sounds self-explanatory, but as you're talking, there's a lot more in this than maybe most people have ever considered. So really cool. But yeah, I want to jump back to that because I know there's a part of the book where you talk about managing nerves. And I feel like that is a subject that could be sort of transferable to other areas of life too. But what are some pieces of advice or tidbits that you have for DJs coming up, managing their nerves in front of crowds of whatever size?
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? And I was actually making the lesson today for we have a course that's based around the book, and as part of the second edition of the book, we've revised the course as well. And I was actually making the lesson today on nerves and confidence because it stops people. Yeah, it's totally. Well, I say it's fresh. I had to open my teaching sheet then to make sure I don't miss anything. So we have kind of like we have kind of like 5 steps that we teach people. I mean, everyone gets nervous. It shows that you care. It shows that you want to do a good job.
Yeah, that's a good thing to say.
But we teach that no one can see it. No one can see your nerves. They simply can't. You feel it, but no one else can see it. So that's quite comforting to know.
That is.
People tend to catastrophize because there's a bottomless pit if something goes wrong in front of the public, right? It's like the dream where you're naked in the street, right? It's the worst thing you could possibly imagine. It's the music stopping and you can't start it again.
Oh, gosh.
So we teach people to have a plan B and to have it rehearsed. So if the worst could happen, they know what button to press to take them out of the pit and to at least buy them some time to fix whatever, the computer crash or whatever.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow.
We teach people that your nerves will go away because they have to go away because our bodies cannot be in that heightened sense of stress for too long.
Right.
So it might feel like it's never going to end, but it lasts 10 or 15 minutes. And we teach people to remember that they're not the only nervous person in the room. This is a really interesting one because you think that you're stood up there, and so therefore you've got this unbelievable burden of nerves in front of an audience. But there's going to be plenty of people in that audience who, for 1,000,001 reasons, are nervous. They didn't want to come out. Their friends forced them. They don't know whether they've got enough money for the drinks. They don't know if they're going to fall asleep because it's been such a hard week at work. They don't know if their boyfriend or girlfriend, who they split up with last week, is going to turn up. There's 1,000,001 things that make people uneasy and nervous and irritable. And your job is to kill all that and to turn that mass of people into a happy, full dance floor. That's your job.
Right.
But if you understand that you're starting from the point of view of we're all in this together, for whatever reason, we might all be a bit, come on, let's have a go. If you can get into that frame of mind, then you're in a position to start playing the music and slowly together. There's nothing better than realizing you're starting to make a connection with people and we're all starting to get in a good mood together. And if you know that's coming, then your body, your mind, everything about you also knows you're not there at the moment. And therefore you feel nervous. It's something that every DJ deals with at the beginning of every single DJ set. And it's like depression or, elation or whatever. You can't change it and you can't really explain it. But we've tried to, and that's kind of how we teach it.
That's some good stuff to consider.
It's some deep stuff, isn't it?
Other people in the room are nervous too. I was like,
They are.
That's crazy. Yeah. And it's your job.
How many people you walk into a pub and look around and you say, what's the mental state of everyone in here? And you're honest with yourself. There's going to be every kind of person, isn't there, in every kind of mood. That's what you're dealing with. You're just another one of them. And another thing we say is, look, put a track on and go walk around the venue. Go walk, just go and get among the people, and you'll soon see. You'll soon feel, and as a real plus point there, quite likely someone will come up to you and say, you're doing a great job. And so then you go back to the booth feeling a bit better.
Yeah. Renewed confidence.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great stuff, man. I'm so glad that you are putting that information out there, because that applies to so much in life. Obviously, if you're on stage as a musician or a lead singer, you're going to go through these similar feelings of nerves in front of a crowd of probably a lot of strangers. That's a good one to consider. I'm going to take and public speaking. I mean, everyone's afraid of public speaking. It's all the same stuff, right? So,
and theatre and anything where you're in front of other people. The thing with DJs is, people understand that public speaking, singers, musicians, actors, people understand they're going to feel nervous. With the DJ, people don't get it. And so the DJ has to deal with nerves when everyone else thinks you're just playing a few records. What's to be nervous about, So I remember my girlfriend, who's now my wife, she used to come to the nightclub I DJ at, and she'd be getting in the mood, she'd be getting happy. And I'd be like, because I was the promoter as well, right? So I had my one eye on the money, one eye on the music. And I'd be looking out it's not getting very busy yet. We're not going to make much money tonight. And then I'd be faking it. I'd be faking the good times because that's the best way to kickstart it, right?
Just get in that state.
But she'd come in and start saying, "Hey, like get out of my face, I'm working," and she'd be like, "Whoa," because you have to push yourself up, and in the end you get there. But
you must love pressure. You're promoter and DJ. You have the whole burden of responsibility for almost every part of this on your shoulders. Wow.
Well, I wasn't a producer, right? So I had to book myself because no one else was going to book me, right? So
fair enough.
That's how I got into it. And so we used to book big DJs who we knew played in venues we wanted to play in. And then after they'd had a great night at our place, we'd be like, "Hey, do you want to do a swap?" And often we'd get the most incredible gigs. That was our tactic. That was our little secret weapon back in the day.
That's a good one, man. Wow. You're like a mastermind behind this. But I guess it's cool because you were in so many different aspects of the scene, from the stage to behind the scenes, and then your interest in teaching and like gathering all the knowledge that's in your head and putting it out there in a way that other people could understand it. And even the way you're explaining it today goes beyond, like, it's not for DJs only, although it is catered to. There's pieces of basically everything that you said that I could see people, and myself included, applying to other aspects of life, whether it's performance or whatever career you're in. There's just some overlap there. So yeah, it's really cool that you've been able to put this all together in this way. I wanted to jump back to another thing here, and it probably ties in, but I just kind of I mentioned it, I think, during the intro. Your podcast, is this just an extension of your teaching, or is that separate?
So we've done a bit of podcasting over the years, but our current podcast is definitely an extension of our teaching. Okay. So we just want to get the message of how we teach and what we do to a wider audience. So we started our podcast to do that. We are a big industry website as well. So anything going on in the DJ technology industry and so on, we're kind of there first, and we're covering it. So we know all the geeky stuff. We know the software releases and the new gear and the little controversies that have absolutely no interest to anyone outside of this circle. So we thought it would be nice and also we do a lot of live training, a lot of live teaching. We've got a very big audience, as we've already spoken about, and we do a lot of that behind closed doors. So we have if you're a student, you have access to student groups, and within those groups we do live training and live Q&As. But we were producing this wealth of material inside our, and most of it's off the cuff. Most of it is this kind of thing. It's discussion, and it's triggered by the students as much as by us. So a lot of it never makes it into the courses. It never makes it outside of those conversations. And it felt like it was getting wasted. So with the permission of our students, we edit the best bits of our live teaching and we put them out as podcasts for the public.
Yeah, that's great.
So they're definitely an extension of our teaching for sure.
That makes sense. And I got another question. This is just me being me. Because, I mean, it's just this thing with you think you know what a DJ does, and then you explain it in a way that's like, wow, okay, I have no idea, but now I'm interested in more. What are some of the top terminologies, or not top, sorry, some of the must-know terminologies for someone who wants to get into this DJ thing?
Now you've put me right on the spot. Well, you have the sync button. That's the big one. You go into any DJ forum and type the word SNYC and see how it's a bit like the Mac versus PC debate.
Okay.
That is the one that you definitely
very much for it.
Oh, you definitely have to have a view on that, and you have to be ready to defend it. So sync is a big thing.
If I jump into a forum, I say, man, I just found this sync button and my life is improved by
yeah.
leaps
I
and
really
bounds.
couldn't do it before, but now I feel ready to,
I'm a
get
pro.
out there.
Yeah.
So the big things, the big terminology, one that confuses people. We've got this article that's been bubbling away for years, but we've never got to 10, right? So it's DJ terms that have got two meanings, right? So one that confuses people is Q, the Q button. Because if you look at a DJ controller, it has a Q button, and the Q button basically is a temporary marker at the beginning of your track. It's like taking the needle off the record and finding the beginning again, right? So you can put a marker down, or you can move it to wherever you want, but it's temporary, right? So you just press the button, and next time you press it, it goes back there. So you can imagine how useful that is. But there's also one on the mixer, which is pre-fade listen or pre-fader Q. So you can hear what's on that channel without anyone else hearing it. So Q is a big one in DJing that often confuses people because they're like, why? Well, that's got nothing to do with moving the position on the track. Right? And there are others actually in that 10, but on the spot I can't remember them. So the big terminology, I'd say beat mixing's got to be the biggest one, right? Because beat mixing, the kind of art of being able to line up, we teach it as tempo matching. You can't do anything without two tracks playing at the same tempo. And then we teach it as beat matching because they're not going to sound right unless you can actually line the beats up at that point. And
so
then
just
phrase
because
matching.
the tempo's right doesn't mean, and there's a third one, sorry.
And the beat doesn't mean it's going to sound good because then you've got bars and you've got phrases, right?
Yes.
So once you've got the tempo matching, the beat matching and the phrase matching right, that's a beat mix. And now it's just a case of, does this work? That's a whole other question. So beat mixing is the big one. But the funny thing about beat mixing is people think they need to be brilliant at this in order to be a DJ, to play in public. I think that is, you didn't ask this question, but it's an important point. That's the biggest mistake that a beginner DJ will make. They will think they need to be technically perfect to play music in public. And it couldn't be further from the truth. If you can cut out the gaps between the music, and if you can make sure that the new song is roughly at the same volume as the previous song, and if you've got half an idea of what that new song should be, you are ready. Because I can guarantee you that if you go and talk to anyone walking out of the world's best club night ever, they're not going to talk about the quality of the blends between the tracks. They're going to talk about how amazing the music was and how the DJ just seemed to know what to play next, right? Unless you get in front of other people really early and really often, you're never going to learn any of that. Because DJing is like a team sport. It doesn't happen in private. You can't learn to play football with a ball in your backyard. You have to go and join the team. You have to get out there. You might not be very good, but you have to get out there. And it's the same with DJing. And people get angry about this. They're like, how can you tell people to... You'd never tell someone to buy a guitar and go and play a gig in 6 weeks. Actually, I would, but that's another thing. But it's not playing a guitar. You don't have to become Hendrix, right?
Right.
The DJ version to go. You're cutting out the gaps between music. You're pressing play when that one finishes. You're pressing play on that one. It's not. It doesn't have to be hard. And the mistake people make is they learn the technical stuff first, and then unless they can do the technical stuff in public, they won't play that record. If it's hard to play that record in a technical way after the previous one, they'll play another one that they can do the technical stuff with. But that's not what the audience wants. They want the right record. And if you're in public, If you
That is
start by
true.
playing the right track next,
Yep.
and then you will slowly get better at the technical ways that you can move between those records. That
Got it.
final
Yeah.
20% is
That
not
makes
important
sense.
enough to stop you doing it. It really isn't.
Hmm.
So it's a big lesson, and it
That's a
certainly
huge
isn't a piece of
lesson.
terminology. It isn't a piece of terminology, but it is a big
I'm glad you
lesson.
threw it in.
Get out
Yeah,
there early.
yeah. Get out there early. Yeah, and I mean, and I'm glad that you defined it as, I mean, that technical part is the 20%. And I know you just threw a number at it, but just to explain the importance of it versus, or the lack of importance there versus just getting your hands. I mean, I was gonna say on the records, but I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I mean, I'm trying to be cool and use some DJ terms that probably don't exist, but just getting your feet wet, I guess, is a a better way of
Yeah,
saying it.
yeah. People are scared to touch the music. You can still touch the music.
Yeah.
The jog wheels, as we call them now, they will
Okay.
control the music as if it was a record. And people are very
Okay.
scared of that at the beginning. They're like, I can't touch that. You've got to
Like
get really used
scratching.
to. You're allowed
Yeah.
to touch it. You're allowed to manipulate it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, the skills to do it well enough to get to a position where you can actually start learning the real skills, the
Okay.
80%,
Right.
are
Right.
not, they're
Okay.
not massive. They shouldn't hold
They're
you back.
not.
Some DJs never blend two records in their whole career. They never do it. They just wait till
Really?
it's at the no, and they do fine. And so it really is something that shouldn't hold you back. It really
Fair.
shouldn't.
Okay. Man, you've showered us with words of wisdom and points to consider, and just yeah. Thanks for sharing from your wealth of knowledge on this with us. And I mean, for anyone who's interested in learning more, anyone who's ever thought about being a DJ or is now thinking about it, definitely check out the website. And again, the book is Rock the Dance Floor. I'll let you shout out. You know what? I want to ask you just one more question, if that's okay. It
Of
just
course
came
it
to me
is.
because I'm thinking just all that you've shared, and I mean, just through your journey, it's taken a path that obviously is maybe different than you thought when you were 13 when you started off DJing. I'm sure you didn't expect to have, become an author and have this massive students across the world. So I guess my real question now is, what's like the driving force for you behind all of this body of work that you've put together over your life?
So I think it is to make a difference in people's lives. I think this is a deep question, by the way, that you've just asked. So I'll try
That's
my hardest.
scary. I
I think
apologize.
I've always felt sad when I see people feeling they can't do something they want to do.
Huh.
DJing was always something that had very vicious gatekeepers. They really, once they'd got in, they didn't want anyone else in. They didn't want you to know what they knew.
Got it.
And that always made me sad because I was outside that gate. I was
Got it.
not the cool kid in school.
Understood.
I wanted it. I could look through the window, but I couldn't have it. So I got there. I got it. And I always wanted to put a hand out and pull other people up because there's an awful lot of people who have got at least the same skills as the people who are doing it today, right? And they need a chance. They need to be told, one, they can do it, because we coach.
Yes.
We coach as much as we teach. We are there to tell people they can do it and to encourage them as much as we are to give them the basic facts.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think the driving force has always been, let's get on with it. Let's do it. And that
Yeah.
means you too. Come along.
Love it.
And to just
Love
kind
it.
of like blow on the flame. The flame's got to be there, but to just kind of like gently blow on the flame and help
Yeah.
people get to the point where they don't need us anymore because,
Wow.
hey, they've done it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, that's a great answer. I'm glad I asked that question, and thank you for answering it that way and being so transparent with your answer like that. But I definitely think that alone will help somebody just because I mean we've all been in scenarios where I mean there's the imposter syndrome and there's all these scenarios in life where you just either feel you don't fit in or maybe you just really don't. But there's always more for us out there, and people like yourself who are acquiring the knowledge, acquiring the experience, and then sharing it with other people who may be in those positions of maybe feeling less than or just not capable, and being able to empower them not only with the skills but with the confidence and some motivation to get after it. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for all that you do. Again, the book is Rock the Dance Floor. If you could just shout out your website, socials,
Yeah,
and where the
so
book is available.
So we are digitaldjtips.com and we're digital DJ tips on all socials as well. And the book is currently in the second edition. It's just come into its second edition now.
Beautiful.
And we're very excited about it. It was 6 years ago the last one came out. So in DJ years, DJ years are like dog years, right? The music changes, the gear changes.
True.
So that book is effectively about 3 decades old. It needed a refresh. It's bang up to date. It's absolutely up to date. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, man, that's amazing, Phil. Thanks so much for taking the time and sharing this information. Really, really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Yeah,
You're welcome, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one. Stay safe and be well.